Welcome to Leaders Gotta Lead. Join our leaders and hosts, Dan Gomer and Scott Harshman, as they bring you powerful strategies and insights to help you lead with purpose, impact, and unstoppable success.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Leaders Gotta Lead podcast. In this podcast, we are focused on not telling anybody what it means to be a leader, but bringing on people who are in leadership roles to discuss what they think being a good leader means to them. Because at the end of the day, leadership is not a one-size-fits-all. And so we believe that by sharing more of these ideas of how great leaders are going out there and making the world a better place by influencing other people, it will help all of the people who are listening to this become better leaders. And my belief is that, number one, we are all leaders. And number two, if we see ourselves as a leader, it makes us become better. It makes us see ourselves in a different light. And so I hope everybody that's watching this, I hope you see yourself as a leader. And today we have Danielle Nuno on the show. I'm so excited to have her on here. Danielle, you've been somebody who I've wanted to have on this podcast since we first started. You know, we've known each other now for, I don't know, maybe a year or so. And just over that last year, I've really seen so much growth in your team, and not just in growth of size. It has grown a little bit, but I would just say I've seen your energy shift. I follow you and what your team is doing on social media. I love your marketing. There was that one little thing that you did with the airplane that like flew through the office. I thought that was super cool. You know, and you've got a very high functioning, high producing team. And I just have a lot of respect, not only for what you've been able to create within your organization, but just for you as an individual. You know, the conversations that we've had have always been very much so people-centered kind of conversations, you know, and if you look up Danielle and her team, the Awaka group, you will see that everything is very centered around client focus, agent focus, and it's very much so about people first. And I believe that that's what's helping make you be so successful. And I believe that that's what's going to help you grow your organization. And so if anybody watching this is looking for a great organization where you can tie into a community of agents who are doing good things, this might be somebody that you want to reach out to. Colorado native, I didn't know that. You're Colorado native. Where'd you grow up?
Almost. I claim it. I've been here since I was 5 or 6. Grew up in Thornton and then Parker.
Okay.
Yes.
See, I'm the same way. I would have been third generation Colorado, but my dad and mom moved to Montana, had me and my brother in Montana, and then they moved back to Colorado when I was like 3. So I call myself a native too.
Oh, come on. That's not a true native. Okay. I'm the true native here. Okay. I was born and raised in Colorado.
In what town, Scott?
It's called the dirty south of Pueblo. Okay. Like, yes, I get it. Like, it's okay. There's some great food in Pueblo.
All right. So just a few statistics that I got to share about you, Danielle. You know, you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. Over 80 million in sales over the course of your career. Top 10 team in Colorado for Keller Williams. Your team sold over 800 homes. Like, you are killing it. You are doing a lot of amazing things. And so I'm very grateful for you being on the show today. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be a guest on this podcast. You're also doing great things, so I'm excited to have a conversation.
Right on. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right. So we always like to start off with the same simple question, although it's not so simple. What does it mean to be a great leader in your eyes?
You know, I think when it comes down to it, there's so many different definitions of great leadership, but at the core of it, I think it's somebody who truly has the best intentions for helping others grow and helping others really achieve their goals, whether that looks like a specific sales goal when it comes to, you know, real estate, a specific sales goal or a specific, time goal, how they're spending their time. But it's somebody who is just as invested in that person's goal and where they want to go as the individual that they're leading. That, I think, is really the core of it.
So where does that come from in you, right? Because I definitely get that sense. I know you do a ton of training with your team. You do a lot of stuff with Glover U. I know you've been pretty involved with that and just kind of giving that back. Like, where does that drive or motivation within you come from to pour into people like that? Because not everybody wants to do that or has that kind of thought process.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think some of it just kind of is part of who I am personally. I think, wanting to help others is a big reason why a lot of people get into real estate, but realizing the impact that I could have by helping lead others to achieve what they want to achieve in their lives helps me do that at a higher scale than only working with clients, which I still do and, really enjoy, but being able to have a bigger impact is something that's really driven me. I really was able to make some big life changes by learning real estate and by having people around me and training around me that helped me grow. And so just seeing how impactful that was on my life and my family's life just really fueled me to want to do that as well.
So, I mean, these are all great things. Like you lead a team, you pour into people constantly, your clients, your team. Um, you have kids, you have a spouse,
hmm
right? What do
hmm
you do to make sure that you're putting yourself first, and how do you lead yourself?
That's like the million dollar question is how do you lead yourself, right? Because I think that the way that we lead ourselves has to come first and before we can be the leaders that we want to be. And so it's a constant balance because it's never 100%. But whenever I notice that my leadership of others is not where I want it to be, if I'm maybe losing a little bit of patience or, not showing up the way that I want to show up, whether that be for my kids or, for my team or with my clients even, it's usually because I haven't been leading myself well or as in the way that I want to. So, just I think the routines that we build that we all know we should be doing, getting back to those and kind of having regular check-ins on those has been critical for me. And, having a mentor or a coach is a big part of that for me as well.
Love
What
it.
does your morning routine look like? Do you have like a
Yeah.
routine every morning? I
Um,
love this question because
yeah.
I think it's so important. You just hit on routines. Without my morning routine, I'm a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me take it back a couple of months because as we may discuss right now, I am, preparing for maternity leave. So right now things are looking a little bit differently. But if I rewind it back a couple of months and look at what the average weekday looks like for me, one, it's having support at home. That's really big for me to be able to show up as the leader that I want to show up as. And so my husband's amazing, and he and I just have a pretty good system set up of who does what. So getting those types of things in place, I think, is really the core. And for me, the personal morning routine has been something that I've worked on like many of us for a few years. But typically the best things that have worked for me is getting some kind of movement in the morning. And then I've got a great planner that I use every day that's got a place to write some affirmations, got a place to write top priorities for the day, break out the day, and then all the to do. So it's more of a success list versus a to do list. Um, that's been massive. And I have gotten very disciplined about filling that out before I start my day, which I like to start early by 8 or 8:30. So just a couple simple things that have worked really well for me. But if I'm not planning my day before I start, I'm usually not showing up as the leader that I want to show up as.
Yep, that's pretty typical. You mentioned, not showing up for your family, your spouse, your team. I'm always curious, do you recognize triggers, or do you have somebody that is a support system that you have confidence and respect for, that like if they came to you and said, Danielle, like you're losing your freaking mind.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
do you have somebody like that, or do you have like triggers that you recognize that like will help you rebalance yourself so that you can lead at the highest level that you want to lead at?
Yeah, good question. Definitely the people around me. That's the biggest key there. So, between my husband, and then I've got at least one person on the team who can very openly communicate with me of like, Danielle, you're being crazy. This is too much. Having someone that's not always a yes person that you can surround yourself with in a work setting, I think is pretty huge. Takes a while to build that up sometimes though.
Yeah.
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 Well, and that goes to just surrounding yourself with the right people. I
Yeah.
mean, there's leaders. I guess anybody that sees themselves as a leader really should be surrounded by people that are going to be leading them and pulling them forward. Because if we're not surrounded by people who are helping support us as a leader, it makes it so much harder. We need those voices in our head that are helping guide us. We can't do it alone. And I think that's another point, by the way. So many leaders feel like they have to do it by themselves. And the reality is they don't. And that actually leads me into another question that I wanted to ask you about is, you're going on maternity leave. You're turning over your entire business for a period of time. And man, me just thinking about that gives me a little bit of anxiety, right?
Mhm.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? How are you doing that? How are you managing that? What are the pieces that you've had to put into place over the last 6 months to make sure it happens? Like, I would just love to pick your brain about how you're making that happen because number one, I think that it's amazing that you are doing that for yourself and your family, and you're taking the steps to make it happen, which is probably pretty uncomfortable. So I would just love to hear some of your process on all that.
And to add to that too, like, do you have like clear cut expectations for people that are going to be managing your business, like non-negotiables that you expect every single day? And then are you going to be checking in on it as well? Like just to kind of add to that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Good question. So it has been a big learning lesson already. And so I imagine that there's probably 3 phases to this whole adventure, which the
Hey guys, Dan Gomer here with the Leaders Gotta Lead podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you are enjoying the content, and if you are, I've got great news because there's more where that came from. Just click on the link in the show notes to discover new ways to plug into what we're doing, to find new content that we're putting out, and to discover how we might be able to work together to elevate your leadership game. Just click on the link in the show notes and let's take our leadership success to the next level.
first phase is what I can talk about so far, which is really, like you said, Dan, the last 6 months, which is the preparation. And then there's going to be these next few months where I'm actually out. And then I'm sure there's going to be a few months when I kind of transition back in where there's a lot of learning as well. So I could definitely speak to what's happened so far. And you hit the nail on the head where you said, I'm sure it's uncomfortable. You think about being in real estate and you're always on the clock, so to speak. And so we've heard a lot about, making sure you're protecting your time, making sure that you've got some time off, you've set expectations with clients and so on and so forth. Well, imagine maybe not doing the best job with that for years and years, and then kind of stepping out almost what it feels like cold turkey for months. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, and I'm right in the thick of that part. And with that said, I've spent the last 6 months preparing the team, and I've had some amazing people work alongside me to just get things ready. So what that has looked like so far was number one, identifying the right people to, oversee the business while I'm going to be out. And what that looked like for me was seeing who was interested first, because it's not necessarily the people who, you think are the best salespeople who are going to want to do the leadership side of things. It's maybe somebody who has a passion for helping others grow and they want to continue selling. So first thing I did is just kind of put it out to the team of I'm looking for leadership, and I'd rather bring somebody in from within than bring somebody in from the outside. And so pretty quickly I had somebody raise her hand, and she was actually working a full-time job outside of real estate while doing real estate. And I won't share too much of her story because there's several things that went into that, but she made a huge decision to leave her full-time career and dive all into real estate. She had an amazing year in real estate, and I think like 4 or 5 times her business last year over the year before by stepping out of her full-time career, and she's stepping in as a leader while I'm out. So that's been amazing, and I've been working very closely with her for months on kind of having her shadow the way that I do things, or shadow, and then I'll ask, okay, what would you have done differently? And then creating some of the systems and documenting a lot of the systems that we use and the processes. So that's been huge. And she's not going to be doing it all. So we've also divvied up responsibilities between her and another person who I trust very much, who's worked with me for almost 6 years, who's stepping in and handling more of the operations than she normally has, as well as just equipping each person on the team, kind of helping them understand what their responsibilities are going to be during this time. So, been a lot of prep work.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's not a cut dry one size fits all, right? Like you kind of have to put it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think the biggest learning lesson for me throughout all this, because it's been a huge learning lesson these last 6 months, is I should have done this sooner, meaning I should have relinquished some um, responsibility, or maybe control might be a good word, involved more people in decision making sooner, because it would have made this transition a little bit smoother. And I've also gotten some amazing perspectives from the team by just opening things up more and making sure that everybody knows, like, hey, we want your input. It's going to help us set things up in a way that's going to benefit you more at the end of the day. So it's been big.
I love that. And
Yeah.
just real quick, and then Scott, I'll let you talk. I know I'm talking a lot this episode, but man, this is just hitting home for me because I can't help but imagine that when you come back from all of this, your team is going to be functioning at such a higher level. Your systems and processes are going to be dialed in. You're naturally going to have more leaders stepping up and doing things on their own. Like, I just can't imagine that you're going to come back from this maternity leave and just have a much higher functioning team. And I'm leaving for Italy for 6 weeks in the summer for vacation. And as you're talking, I'm like, you know what? Like, I was planning on kind of pseudo working, and I'm like, no, I should check out for 6 weeks. Don't plan on calling me. Just pretend like I'm not here and turn the reins over to the team and do this exercise you're going through, because I just feel like when I come back from Italy, then the team's going to be functioning at a much higher level at that point. And so, yeah, thank you for sharing all of that, because that's actually really resonating with me as well.
Absolutely. And I think, you set the example for them as well when you do that. It's like, I'm sure that you have similar mission that I do, which is not only helping people hit their sales goals, but helping people live the life they want to live. And so if you can set the example by disconnecting while you're in Italy, I'm sure that will inspire those that you lead to do something similar as well.
Absolutely.
I think it's interesting that you've been a leader for over a decade, right? Dan, same thing with you, same thing with me. And we're so much of a control freak that it takes something like having a baby to finally be like, wait, hold on, I got to step back and actually put in like systems, processes, checklists, everything else to make sure that everything's ran smoothly. Like I caught myself this week with one of my assistants, same situation where I'm like, wait, I failed you. Like I'll pull the thumbs. I can't point the fingers because I didn't have clear expectations for you. So I love the fact that you're taking the time to do that, and really go over and go through that. Something you mentioned is coaching. I'm a huge proponent of coaching. Dan, I know you are as well. There's so many different types of coaches: business coaches, leadership coaches, financial coaches, like you name it, there's a coach for a coach. Marriage coaches, like, right? Like there's a coach for a coach. Let's talk specifically around business. What do you look for in a coach to help you achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve with your leadership style?
Yeah, good question. I think having a coach that is passionate about leadership, if you want to be coached on leadership, is important. That sounds obvious. And not every coach is going to help you grow your leadership. A lot of coaches are specifically going to be focused on systems or processes or different things within the business. So I think it's its own pillar of coaching. And I didn't fully know that the coach that I found that was exactly what I needed. And she kind of helped me discover that. And it just so happens to be one of her passions as well. And so that's been a huge focus. I also personally have found it really beneficial to align myself with a coach who understands the life experiences that I'm going through right now. So, for me, that's a fellow mom, or somebody who's worked with moms, because that kind of represents its own, opportunities and challenges and things like that. So that's been big for me. Also, somebody who has coached someone with the same blind spots is huge. And so just somebody who's had the experience of identifying what I'm missing.
How do you like? So, I mean, I truly do feel like sometimes the coach shows up when you least expect them, but you need them the most. But you mentioned blind spots. Like, I got to dig deeper on that one
Mhm.
because I don't know my blind spots.
Yeah.
Have you been able to like identify blind spots, or did people like did you do surveys with your team and that's how you found the blind spots? Like, how did you find the blind spots?
I think it's through asking a lot of questions, whether that be in one-on-one conversations, being open to feedback. And I think, as maybe you said control freaks earlier, that could be a term that maybe has been used to describe me at some at some points in my leadership journey. Um, we've got to make sure that we are opening up the floor for those conversations to solicit genuine feedback, because people gravitate towards strong leaders. People want someone who's very assertive and confident in the plan and knows the vision and knows where we're going. And yet we've got to make sure that we're also creating those conversations for like, hey, I'm not perfect. What am I missing? And make sure that that's happening regularly, which has been a big opportunity. And my coach has actually helped me have those conversations. So, Scott, we've done anonymous surveys. We've done a couple of those before. I've also had somebody on my team who I trust highly, who people are more honest with, meet and have one-on-one conversations and ask some really great questions and then report those back as well.
That's
Um,
such a great strategy because
yeah.
whenever I ask my team, what can we improve? They're like, nothing is fine. I'm like,
Mhm.
somebody give me something. Like, I know there's something we can improve. What can we improve? That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. And then I think soliciting feedback about specific things that you do as a company or as a leader is helpful, because we've all been asked the question of like, what could I be doing better? But when you can really break it down, it's what could I be doing better on a weekly basis with our one-on-ones that would help you go out and serve another client every month, like getting a little bit more granular and specific. So for example, we send out we do a big monthly post meeting surveys, and it has specific questions about the content that we covered. And so little by little, we're gathering feedback so that it doesn't kind of boil and lead to this huge feedback session where people are frustrated, and that's the first time that they're sharing their feedback.
One-on-ones. Tell me, like, I know that everybody's a little bit different on how they do it. Like some do it quarterly, some do it semi-annually, some do it annually. Like, what does a one-on-one look like to you, and how often do you do one-on-ones with each specific person on your team?
So for our agent partners, we're doing either weekly or biweekly, just depending on kind of their experience level, where they're tracking to their goal. And, they're 20 minutes, sometimes 30. But I've found that when it comes to helping with pipeline review, helping with the accountability that they set out for themselves, if we're going weeks and weeks between one-on-ones, it leaves room for either me as like their coach or their leader to forget and kind of let my foot off the gas, or for them to just not have to be quite as accountable to their goals as they wanted to be.
Sure.
So,
Um, So, I mean, I want to join your team right now. Like, like what you're telling me is, I'm like, you're a leader I want. So like characteristics that you look for people to join your team, like what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So we've we've had a set of core values for years. We've added one recently. And so I'll start with that one. The biggest thing that I'm looking for is somebody who's growth minded. And that is somebody who either wants to grow their production, grow their skill, or grow their lifestyle. And our mission really is building better futures through real estate. So I'm looking for somebody who wants to change the trajectory of where they're headed in their life. So somebody who's growth minded, and that's somebody who's going to, be interested in maybe going to real estate trainings or conferences, who's interested in reading or listening to podcasts, and just bettering themselves as a person. Uh,
ABL.
yeah. What's
Always be
ABL?
learning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Learning and closing.
Yeah.
And so that's huge because somebody who is not growth minded is going to really dislike working with me and working with our team. It's going to constantly feel like a push and a pull. So I really enjoy when we have agents on our team who are pulling us ahead because they want to see certain things introduced. They want us to improve our customer experience, things like that, versus it always coming from leadership. So that's huge. And then somebody who's passionate about real estate. It's been a tough
3 years.
year, two
You could
years,
say
three
three.
years. Okay,
Yes.
we're on three
March,
now. All
March will
right.
be 3 years. Okay. So yes, say three.
It's challenging, and so somebody who is sort of got one foot in and one foot out is probably not gonna vibe with the way that we do things as a team. So those are probably the top two things that we're looking for when it comes to characteristics of an agent who's going to win with us.
Well, and I love that. And what's so great about it, like, so our team motto is empowering people through real estate. So very similar, right? Like
Mhm.
real estate changed my life in a good way, created so much opportunity for me. I want to help other people do that. And it sounds like you're in a very similar kind of mindset there, which I think is why I love what you're doing so much. And so my question is just to kind of shift gears a little bit. Have you always seen yourself as a leader? And if not, how did you overcome, or maybe you still are, maybe it's something we never totally overcome, that imposter syndrome aspect of being a leader?
Yeah. Um, I have always struggled with that. And I think a lot of us as leaders who truly lead because we want to help others and because we um, want to see others hit their full potential and their goals probably always have a little bit of that inside of us because there's a level of humility, I think, that comes with being a really good leader. So there's still a little bit of that there, but I think over time, there's a few key things that I've done that have helped kind of reduce that imposter syndrome. I think I've seen myself as a leader here and there ever since I was like, I don't know, 18, 19 years old when I was in a management role way back in retail. And people would say things, right? People start saying, like, wow, thanks so much for training me on this. You're really good at explaining this, or whatever it may be. And you brush it off for years, especially when you're leading at a very young age. You're leading maybe people who are older than you. There's a lot of that imposter syndrome. But you hear some things over time and you start to say, okay, maybe people do see me as a leader. And I think that's how that confidence built for me. But I, over the last couple of years, have started what I don't remember where I heard this. I did not make this name up, but I've started a smile file. And what that is like screenshots, mostly for me, of um, nice things that people have said to me, specifically about leadership. I've got some client ones in there as well. And so you've got those bad days in leadership where, somebody's deciding to part ways with you as a leader, or, you're dealing with something hard. You've got to have a hard conversation. And so that's one of the strategic things that I go back and look at because you, people say nice things to us all the time. We just focus more on the negative than the positive a lot of times. And so whether it's like a, hey, thank you so much for helping me with that, or man, I can't believe I hit this goal. I couldn't have done it without you, or whatever it may be. Those are screenshotted in my phone. And so I'll go visit those. And that has helped me build some confidence around leadership, as well as having a coach or a business partner who's got your back and who's going to call out blind spots. For a lot of us who are really hard on ourselves are actually that we're doing a great job. And so I think a coach can help with that.
I know, and that's great feedback. Yeah, it's
Mile
definitely
file.
something I still struggle with, you know?
Yeah.
And I did not see myself as a leader for a really long time. It's not until recently that I was like, okay, well, here we are. Better
Yeah,
lean in, you know?
absolutely. What have you done to kind of build that up within yourself?
You know, very similar to what you're talking about, you know, and I think that last point that you made is not something I've really thought about, but I think you're totally right, is having somebody in your corner who you know is going to call you on your BS, which means when they tell you something's going well, they actually mean it. That's really powerful. You know, that you know, we all need that validation that we're doing it right. And we all need validation can also come in a form of from a trusted person, you're not doing this right, or you could do this better. That's a form of validation, you know, and I think that that's absolutely huge. And I think the other thing that has really, really helped me was this concept of everybody's a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And once I kind of embodied that mentality, then it wasn't about me being better than or anything than anybody else. It was about, no, I am a leader. And the coolest part about acknowledging that I hold that role in my life is that it forces me to be better. If I'm going to see myself as a leader, then I'm going to hold myself to a new level of accountability. And to me, that's where the real magic is of seeing ourselves as a leader. And so from that perspective, I can't screw it up. So I'm just going to be authentic and genuine and do the best job that I possibly can, and you know, let the chips fall where they may. So I guess that's part of it for me, is just kind of taking the pressure off that I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be the best version of me that I can be, and that's my form of leadership, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that made me think of one thing that you've done such a fantastic job of, and I think it's critical for anybody who maybe is struggling with seeing themselves as a leader or who's just looking to become a better leader, is creating that community or joining that community of leaders, whether it's local or not. You know, some of the things that you've done locally to create the round table, things like that, this podcast, that's huge, because when you have conversations with other leaders, you realize, one, leadership doesn't have to be as lonely as it can feel. And two, like everybody's struggling with the same stuff. And so those things that were like, why is this so hard for me? Most leaders are struggling with the same thing. So that community piece is huge.
Absolutely. So, Scott, did you have something?
No, I mean, I think one of the things that I'm reflecting on, and I think both of you do a really good job of this, is like going back in the day. I'm a big proponent of pulling the thumbs as opposed to pointing the fingers. So always pull the thumbs. If somebody leaves, somebody's not, doing what your expectations are, whatever it may be, it should come back to you as the leader, because you didn't properly train and you didn't properly provide the value that they felt like they deserved. So maybe not creating that close relationship. And I hear both of you talk through that, and I think both of you do a great job of that, of really always looking to pull the thumbs, as opposed to point the fingers. So I want to give kudos out to both of you on that, because Danielle, like, I don't know a ton about you, but like the more I hear you, the more I'm like, if I'm a real estate agent, I'm joining your damn team, right? Like, I'm calling you up like after this and saying, "Hey, Danielle, can I come interview to join your team?" I'm not a real estate agent, but if I was, I would. I want to give you some kudos where it's deserved. I do think that you've done a really good job, and the way that you pour into your people is amazing. Is there a specific leader that you can reflect on? You don't have to share names if you don't want to, or a mentor that you've had that you're like, yes, that's where I got this from.
Yeah. You know, I really am big on having role models. And so there's been so many throughout my career that I have followed and emulated. Right now, I would say that, like Dan said, I've been pretty plugged into the Glover U training organization, training and coaching. And so my coach in particular, really emulating some of the things that she does with the people that she leads has been huge for me. And that's Kate Simon at Glover U. That's been huge. But there's been several over the years that I almost get a little obsessive over this. And I think, a lot of us who have succeeded at something were obsessive about it at some point during their growth journey, right? But really studying what these people do, from things like their morning routine to the way that they navigate relationships to obviously the way that they do business. And so I've always had somebody that I'm following, and almost studying. I think that's an important part of growth.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we don't have to do it alone, right? We can't say that enough. We don't have to do that alone. We have a community and lean on people. And I'd love to keep going, but we're going to ask you one more kind of closing question here in just a minute. But before we do that, Danielle, what is the best way for somebody to get in touch with you, or get in touch with your team if they want to get to know you a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, Facebook, Danielle Nuno, that's Nuno. And my email is Danielle@theawakagroup.com. So either way works great.
And if you happen to, email her while she's on leave, give her a little bit of, time. Although I'm sure those will get forwarded anyway. You've got all
You'll
this.
have an out of office on, or they'll be forwarded, right? Like she's
They'll
already
be
taken care of.
monitored. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Love it.
Um,
Well, Scott and I, we love doing this podcast. We want to connect with more leaders. If you're watching this, you see yourself in that leadership role. Once again, I hope everybody does. We would love to talk with you. We want to, like Danielle was sharing earlier, we want to connect with more leaders in our community in as many different ways as we possibly can. So if this is resonating with you, reach out to us. We would love to connect with you guys as well. But before we wrap up here, Danielle, we've got oh, and also we're terrible at saying this, but make sure you subscribe and share the podcast. If you're liking this, share it with some other people so we can spread the word. So before we wrap up, Scott, final question for Danielle.
all right, this is a brain burner for you. If you could go back to your younger self and give yourself one piece of advice about leadership, what would it be?
Oh gosh.
Back to your 18-year-old self when you were in retail.
Oh, that's a great question. I think I would just empower myself. I think the advice would be, people see you as a leader, you can help people, you're going to help people, and stay the course. So just kind of a pat on the back.
Yeah.
I think there's the learnings that I've gone through, the many, many mistakes that I've made have helped me become the leader that I am, and I'm still learning every single day. And so I think I would have to still go through the learnings. I'd still have to make the mistakes to be who I am today, but just that pat on the back to my 18-year-old self would be helpful.
I love that. That's so big, right? For somebody that's watching this, I have to constantly remind myself of, like, you've been here before. Like, you've been in this tough spot before. Just keep going forward, remember? Like, that's such great advice. It's not about avoiding the pain, but getting better at learning from it.
And I think it's super important too that to know that you learn more from failure than success.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Hopefully we can have you back on another time, and maybe we'll have you back on after you come back and you've kind of gotten back into the rhythm of things, and just kind of talk a little bit about that whole journey of taking, months off from a team of, you got 11 now, is that right? Also a
Yep.
decent sized team, and taking time off from that, that's a big undertaking. And so I'd love to hear how that all goes. So maybe we'll have you back on and talk about that. So Danielle Nuno, the Awaka Group, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Danielle. Leaders got to lead out.